Step back with me into a world where history, fashion, and storytelling collide. Imagine a single gown carrying the weight of an entire era. Imagine colors and fabrics whispering secrets about power, vulnerability, and transformation. That is the magic of costume design, and nowhere is it more vividly alive than in the final chapter of Downton Abbey. The story of this film is more than just an ending. It is a passage from one age to another. The characters we have followed for years are stepping into the dawn of the 1930s, and with them comes a revolution in the way they dress. The corsets of the past are gone. The rigid traditions of earlier decades loosen their grip. In their place arrives something bold, modern, and alive with possibility. It is not only a shift in fashion. It is a reflection of how these characters grow, stumble, and rise again. Anna Robbins, the visionary costume designer behind these looks, has one of the most fascinating jobs in cinema. She is not simply choosing fabric. She is translating character arcs into color, silhouette, and texture. Her role in this final film is to blend the elegance of the late 1920s with the confident energy of the new decade. The costumes could not feel like a sudden departure, but they needed a spark of change. A signal that life itself was evolving. Every seam, every accessory, every shade of fabric carries that message. Picture the moment, a voice rings out, "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to 1930. That single line sets the stage. The world of Downton Abbey has reached a turning point. Daywear and evening wear split sharply, but both are now stepping into something fresh. Ascot, the famed horse racing event, becomes the perfect showcase. At Ascot, elegance belongs to both the day and the evening. And in this dazzling scene, we see two women, Lady Mary and Lady Edith, wearing designs that capture not only the spirit of the time but the spirit of their journeys. Lady Edith appears in lace, soft and sweet in a shade of pink so delicate it feels like sugar spun into fabric. Yet beneath that sweetness lies steel. For in this very moment, Edith is no longer the timid sister living in someone else's shadow. She stands tall, strong, unshaken, her gown declaring confidence even while it glows with softness. And across from her, Lady Mary embodies power in her own way. Her navy blue attire carries authority, strength, and poise. Darker, bolder tones that speak to her long-standing role as the figure of command. But here is the brilliance. Anna Robbins decided to twist the usual pattern. Mary, normally cloaked in power, steps into a moment of vulnerability. Edith, once hesitant, radiates calm confidence. Their costumes mirror this inversion. What you see is not just two women in gowns. You see the shifting tides of their relationship. The costumes are telling you a story, about rivalry, about sisterhood, about change. And this is only the beginning. Because soon we will see a scene that flips everything we thought we knew about them. Mary, usually untouchable, asks Edith for help. "I'm in a fix," she admits. In that scene, Edith wears a navy dress with dramatic pleats and strength stitched into every fold, while Mary's gown floats with such fragility it almost dissolves into the air. For the first time, Mary confesses her vulnerability, and her costume reveals what words alone could never capture. This is storytelling at its finest, woven not in dialogue, but in fabric. Now, imagine standing inside a fitting room, surrounded by silks and velvets, and watching actors step into their characters through costume. That is what the cast recalls with such affection. 15 years of living with these characters has made every fitting a moment of transformation. As they describe it, the fittings were not simply about trying clothes. They were about slipping into the very soul of Edith and Mary. From corsets to freedom, from rigid tradition to modern ease, the journey is stitched into every detail. And here is the secret that makes it even more fascinating: none of this happens in isolation. Costume design is not a single mind dictating style. It is collaboration. The actors themselves bring ideas to the table. They respond to how fabrics feel on their bodies, how silhouettes shape their movements. Anna listens, adapts, and creates. Together, they discover the balance between character truth and visual impact. What results is something far greater than fashion. It is identity, revealed through clothing. It is a living record of how two sisters, and the world around them, step forward into a new age. There are moments in cinema when a single costume does more than clothe a character. It defines them. It etches itself into memory, becoming a symbol long after the credits roll. In this film, one dress carries that weight. The red gown worn by Lady Mary at the Peter Fields ball. This is not just any dress. It is arresting, unforgettable, bold. The moment she enters, the room itself shifts. The eye is drawn to her, unavoidably, as if the color commands recognition. But this is not only about spectacle. Beneath the striking scarlet lies a story. Because that gown is not simply glamorous, it is defiant. It is Mary's declaration that she will live freely, even as the ground beneath her threatens to collapse. In the very same evening, the painful truth of her divorce comes to light. The choice of red becomes layered with meaning. Is it a scarlet letter? A mark of scandal? Or is it a symbol of her own strength, her refusal to be diminished by whispers? That tension is what makes the dress iconic. It carries rebellion, vulnerability, and allure in every thread. Its halter neckline, its unusual cut, its sharp modernity, it all suggests a woman who is stepping beyond the boundaries of expectation. Mary chooses to shine, even as judgment hovers. That is what makes the gown unforgettable. It is costume as confession, as shield, and as weapon. And then, opposite this fiery display, there is Edith's gown, quieter perhaps, yet no less powerful. Her dress is cut on the bias, flowing with ease, embracing her in a fabric that feels alive against her skin. The turquoise lame is patterned with roses, a design so rare that its very existence feels like a treasure. This was no ordinary fabric. It was found in Paris, aged 100 years, delicate and finite. There was only so much of it to use. The cutter had to work with precision, paneling it perfectly so nothing was wasted. Out of limitation came brilliance. The result was a gown that seemed written for Edith herself, soft yet commanding, refined yet utterly unique. When Laura Carmichael, who brings Edith to life, stepped into that gown for the first time, she described a sensation that many actors know but few can put into words. She felt both exposed and empowered. The fabric clung, revealing without overexposing, creating that paradox of vulnerability and power. In the grand dining scenes, the gown allowed Edith to embody a quiet confidence. She was no longer the overlooked sister. She was luminous. And in the interplay of her turquoise against Mary's red, a striking duality emerged, sister against sister, power expressed in two very different languages of color. And then there is the jewelry. Oh, the jewelry. Across the Downton Abbey saga, jewels have always been more than adornment. They are inheritance. They are identity. They are a link between past and future. In this final film, tiaras, necklaces, and diamonds frame the costumes like exclamation marks at the end of sentences. When Edith or Mary steps into a ballroom wearing a tiara from the 1930s, it is not simply fashion. It is history resting on their heads. It is legacy shining against candlelight. And for the audience, it is another reminder that these women belong to a lineage, yet also to a world in transition. The cast themselves marvel at these details. Michelle Dockery and Laura Carmichael both speak of the awe that comes with slipping on such pieces. To wear a tiara from the actual 1930s is to feel time folding inward, as if you are touching the life of someone who once wore it decades before. Who danced in it? Who lived, loved, and carried their own secrets. Every accessory is a ghost story, told in sparkle and metal. These details are why fans will remember not just the story of the film, but the textures of it. Mary in scarlet, Edith in turquoise, diamonds glinting, fabrics whispering histories. Costumes that are not only beautiful, but alive with character. And it all leads us to the question every fan must wrestle with: if clothing can carry so much meaning, then what does this final collection of costumes say about the end of an era? As the final act of Downton Abbey unfolds, the costumes take on an even greater responsibility. They are no longer just clothing. They become symbols of farewell, of transformation, of survival in a world that refuses to stand still. Every gown, every coat, every jewel carries the weight of history and the echo of what is ending. Families like the Crawleys have always lived under the shadow of change. Titles fade. Fortunes rise and fall. Traditions, once unshakable, bend to the force of modern life. And the costumes in this last film capture that truth in every stitch. They remind us that the past is never truly gone, it is layered into the present, like fabric upon fabric, memory upon memory. Lady Mary stands as the embodiment of this tension. She has always carried herself with authority, but in the final chapter, her strength is tested more than ever. Her gowns reflect it, structured coats with sharp silhouettes, fabrics that demand attention, and yet, underneath, dresses so delicate they reveal a hidden fragility. She is both the unshakable leader and the vulnerable sister asking for help. Her costumes whisper that even those who seem strongest are allowed to falter. Lady Edith, by contrast, emerges radiant. Her wardrobe glows with confidence and a newfound independence. The peaches, pinks, and soft tones of her past give way to bolder shades, navy paired with light coats, turquoise alive with rose patterns, fabrics shimmering with courage. For Edith, clothing becomes declaration. No longer overshadowed, she now commands her own presence. Her evolution is stitched into every fold of her gowns. And the beauty lies in the way these sisters mirror the larger story of the house itself. Downton Abbey, once defined by rigid rules and a strictly stratified world, now stands on the cusp of reinvention. The way they talk has changed. The way they behave has changed. And yes, the way they dress has changed. The costumes declare it openly, the old world is fading, and a new one has arrived. Think about the red gown at the ball, the turquoise lame at dinner, the navy cape with exaggerated shoulders, the coats so bold they threaten to steal entire scenes. These are not just clothes. They are milestones. They are farewells disguised as fashion. They are the language through which the story says goodbye. The actors themselves describe the fitting process as moments they cherished most in their careers. Because every fitting was more than tailoring, it was transformation. It was watching history come alive on their bodies. It was knowing that when they stepped out of the fitting room, they were not simply wearing fabric. They were carrying the weight of characters who had lived on screen for 15 years. That is why the final costumes feel so monumental. They are the closing sentences of a story written not only with dialogue, but with color, thread, and silhouette. And so, as the final curtain falls on Downton Abbey, we are left with an image both haunting and inspiring. Families like theirs must keep moving to survive. The world around them changes relentlessly. They change with it. Their costumes tell us that survival is not about clinging to the past. It is about stepping forward with grace, with elegance, with resilience stitched into every seam. This is the legacy of Downton Abbey. A story not only of aristocrats and estates, but of transformation told through fabric. From corsets to freedom, from muted tones to vibrant declarations, from vulnerability to power. Costumes became confessions. Costumes became shields. Costumes became the language of farewell. And now, as the final credits roll, one truth lingers: what we wear is never just clothing. It is identity. It is history. It is the way we tell the world who we are, even when words fail us. So when we remember this last film, we will not only recall the lines spoken or the scenes played. We will remember the shimmer of silk, the glint of diamonds, the strike of red against a ballroom, and the soft glow of turquoise at dinner. We will remember how clothing carried the story. How it carried us through the end of an era. The world of Downton Abbey may have changed forever, but its elegance will never fade.